Calm before the storm. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the Zorgan Empire reigned supreme. For millennia, they had conquered countless worlds, subjugating or exterminating any species that dared stand in their way. The Zorgans saw themselves as the pinnacle of evolution, destined to rule the stars. To them, all other races were primitive, inferior, and unworthy of sharing the cosmos. From their grand capital on the planet Zorg Prime, the Zorgan High Command oversaw their ever-expanding dominion with cold efficiency. Their mighty war fleets patrolled the space lanes, ensuring order and obedience among their subjugated worlds. Any sign of defiance was met with swift and brutal retribution. It was during a routine patrol near the fringes of Zorgan space that the Imperial cruiser Ravager encountered an unknown vessel. The alien ship was small, a mere speck compared to the massive Zorgan warship. Sensors indicated it possessed rudimentary faster-than-light capability, but was technologically primitive by Zorgan standards. "Sir, we've detected an unidentified craft at the edge of our sensor range," the Ravager's sensor officer reported to the ship's commander, Admiral Zoltar. "It appears to be a new species not previously encountered." Zoltar sneered, his reptilian features twisting into a look of disdain as he examined the readouts on the display. "A new primitive to welcome into the fold of our glorious empire," he mused, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Hail them and command them to submit to the might of the Zorgan Empire." The communications officer nodded and opened a channel to the alien vessel. "Unknown craft, this is the Zorgan Imperial cruiser Ravager. You are trespassing in Zorgan space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You will submit to the rule of the Zorgan Empire or face immediate destruction." There was a moment of silence before a response came through, the alien language translated by the Ravager systems. "This is Captain Jenna Sommers of the Earth ship Trailblazer. We are on a mission of peaceful exploration and mean no harm. We were unaware this area of space was claimed by your empire. We request permission to withdraw and continue on our way." Zoltar slammed his fist on the armrest of his command chair. "Insolent primitives. You do not make requests of the Zorgan Empire. You will surrender and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy you and your pathetic ship." The human captain's voice remained calm and measured as she replied, "Admiral, we have no desire for conflict. Allow us to leave peacefully, and we can avoid any unnecessary bloodshed on either side." "You dare dictate terms to me?" Zoltar roared, his temper flaring at the human's impudence. "Tactical, lock weapons on that ship. Prepare to fire on my command." As the Ravager's weapon systems powered up and targeted the tiny Trailblazer, Captain Sommers realized diplomacy had failed. She quickly issued orders to her crew. "Shields up, full power to engines. Execute evasive maneuvers, and get us out of here, maximum velocity." The Trailblazer banked hard to starboard as a salvo of searing energy beams lanced out from the Zorgan cruiser, narrowly missing the human ship. The small vessel accelerated rapidly, pushing its engines to their limits. Weaving erratically, the Trailblazer dodged another volley of deadly fire as it raced to escape the angry Zorgan warship. On the bridge of the Ravager, Admiral Zoltar watched in disbelief as the primitive ship skillfully evaded their attacks. "Impossible," he hissed, his eyes narrowing. "No ship that small and primitive should be able to outmaneuver us like that. All batteries, fire at will. Destroy them." The Ravager unleashed a blistering barrage, filling space with crisscrossing beams of destructive energy. But the Trailblazer deftly weaved through the onslaught, twisting, rolling, and banking to avoid the deadly blasts. With a final acceleration, the human ship leaped into faster-than-light speed and vanished from the Ravager's sensors. "They escaped, sir," the sensor officer reported nervously, fearing the Admiral's wrath. "Our jump-wake analysis shows they fled towards an uncharted system several light-years from here." Zoltar clenched his fists, his eyes blazing with anger and humiliation. An uncharted system. That must be their homeworld, he surmised. These impudent primitives dared to defy the Zorgan Empire. They will pay dearly for this insult. The admiral swiveled his command chair to face his second-in-command. "Commander, set course for Zord Prime. The High Command must be informed of this encounter. We will marshal our forces and teach these upstarts the folly of challenging the might of the Zorgan Empire. Their world will burn, and their species will kneel before us or be wiped from existence." As the Ravager turned towards the heart of Zorgan space, Captain Sommers and a crew of the Trailblazers sped towards Earth, racing to warn humanity of the coming storm. The ship's communications array crackled to life with a priority transmission to Earth Command, relaying details of the hostile first contact. On the blue world that the Trailblazer called home, the message was received with a mixture of shock, dread, and grim determination. The people of Earth had long suspected they were not alone in the cosmos, but now they faced the certainty of an impending invasion by a vastly superior alien force. In the halls of power, leaders debated their options and scrambled to muster what meager defenses Earth possessed. The nations of the world put aside their squabbles, united by the shared threat from the stars. They knew their small fleet of early interstellar ships would be no match for the might of the Zorgan war machine, but they vowed to resist the alien conquest with every resource at their disposal. As news of the looming invasion spread, the people of Earth reacted with fear, panic, and a defiant resolve. Some took to the streets in chaotic riots, while others gathered in solemn prayer or hopeful solidarity. Millions fled the major cities, seeking refuge in the countryside or deep underground bunkers. Those who remained prepared to fight, to defend their homes and loved ones against the alien onslaught. In hidden labs and secret bases around the world, Earth's brightest minds worked feverishly to unlock the secrets of advanced technologies left behind by previous alien visits. Decades of clandestine research and reverse engineering had yielded tantalizing clues to propulsion systems, energy shields, and weapons far beyond Earth's current capabilities. But would these breakthroughs come in time to make a difference? As the people of Earth braced for the coming storm, they clung to the hope that their courage, ingenuity, and indomitable spirit would see them through this darkest hour. The Zorkans might have the advantage of superior technology and a vast empire, but humanity had faced extinction-level threats before and prevailed. They would not go quietly into the night, would not surrender their freedom without a fight. On a world once divided, now united by a common enemy, the stage was set for a desperate struggle for survival and the dawning of a new era for the human race. The Zorgan invasion fleet was coming, but Earth would be ready to meet them head-on, to show the galaxy the true strength and resilience of humanity. The calm before the storm was over. The battle for Earth's future was about to begin. The gathering storm. In the heart of the Zorgan Empire, the High Command convened in an emergency session to discuss the recent encounter with the primitive species from Earth. Admiral Zoltar stood before the assembled leaders, his posture proud and his voice filled with righteous indignation as he recounted the Trailblazers' defiance and escape. "These humans are a troublesome and unpredictable species," Zoltar declared, his eyes scanning the room. "They dared to defy our glorious empire and flee like cowards. We must act swiftly to crush their resistance and bring their world under our control." The Zorgan overlord, a towering figure clad in ornate armor, leaned forward on his throne, his gaze piercing Zoltar. "You believe these primitives pose a genuine threat to our empire, Admiral?" Zoltar met the overlord's gaze unflinchingly. "Not a threat, Overlord, but an opportunity. The audacity of their defiance cannot go unanswered. We must make an example of them, to show the galaxy the price of opposing Zorgan rule. Their world will provide new resources, their people will serve as slave labor, and their broken spirits will be a warning to all who would challenge us." The Overlord nodded slowly, a cold smile spreading across his face. "Well said, Admiral. You will have your invasion fleet. Take whatever resources you need and depart for this Earth immediately. Bring me their leaders in chains and their world under our heel. Fail, and you will suffer the consequences." With a deep bow, Zoltar accepted his orders. "As you command, Overlord. The human homeworld will fall, and their species will kneel before the might of the Zorgan Empire. As the High Command dismissed, Zoltar wasted no time in assembling his invasion force. A vast armada of warships, troop transports, and planet-cracker siege engines gathered in orbit above Zorg Prime. The finest warriors and most ruthless commanders of the Empire flocked to Zoltar's banner, eager to participate in the subjugation of a new world and the glory it would bring. Unbeknownst to the Zorgans, the Trailblazer had managed to send a warning to Earth before the Ravager could jam its communications. The urgent message reached Earth Command, alerting humanity to the imminent threat. Governments worldwide scrambled to mobilize their defenses and prepare for the coming onslaught. In a secret underground facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a brilliant human scientist named Dr. Ilara Voss worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of an ancient alien propulsion technology. For years, she had studied the remnants of a crashed alien ship, reverse engineering its advanced systems in the hopes of one day giving humanity the stars. Now, with the Zorgan threat looming, Ilara's work took on new urgency. She and her team labored around the clock, pushing themselves to the brink of exhaustion as they raced to create a working prototype of the faster-than-light drive. The technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, harnessing the power of exotic matter and folding space-time itself to achieve near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. As the days ticked by and the Zorgan fleet drew closer, Earth's defenses took shape. The world's nations pooled their resources, combining their military might into a united front. Obsolete warships were hastily retrofitted with the best weapons and armor humanity could muster, while cities and key infrastructure were fortified against orbital bombardment. The people of Earth watched the skies with a mixture of fear and determination, knowing that their fate hung in the balance. In the streets, impromptu rallies and prayer vigils sprang up, as citizens came together to support one another and steel their resolve. The human spirit, tested time and again throughout history, refused to be broken by the prospect of alien conquest. Dr. Voss and her team worked frantically, pushing their prototype to its limits in a series of grueling tests. Each trial brought them closer to a working faster-than-light drive, but time was running out. The Zorgan fleet had almost reached the edges of Earth's solar system, and humanity's ragtag defenses were outmatched in every way by the technologically superior invaders. In a final, desperate gamble, Ilara and her team prepared to test the prototype drive in an actual spacecraft. A small, heavily modified scout ship, the Intrepid, was chosen for the task. Its crew, a hand-picked group of brave volunteers, knew the risks but were willing to sacrifice everything for a chance to give Earth an edge in the coming battle. As the Intrepid lifted off from the secret base, carrying the hopes and dreams of humanity with it, the Zorgan Armada arrived at the outskirts of Earth's solar system. Admiral Zoltar stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, the Conqueror, and gazed at the viewscreen showing the blue-green world that was his target. The primitive species below think they can resist the might of the Zorgan Empire. Zoltar sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. They will soon learn the price of their insolence. All ships assume invasion formation. Prepare to establish orbital dominance and begin planetary bombardment on my command. The Zorgan fleet advanced, an unstoppable wave of destruction bearing down on the helpless world below. Earth's defenders watched in horror as the massive ships filled the sky, their weapons primed and ready to rain death upon the planet's surface. The final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and the fate of the world hung in the balance. Far beyond the moon's orbit, the crew of the Intrepid prepared to engage their experimental faster-than-light drive. Dr. Voss, monitoring the ship from mission control, held her breath as the pilot initiated the activation sequence. The small ship seemed to stretch and distort as the drive tore a hole in the fabric of space-time, and in a blinding flash of light, the Intrepid vanished. The prototype drive exceeded all expectations, propelling the Intrepid far beyond the reach of the Zorgan fleet in mere moments. As the scout ship raced through the stars, Its crew marveled at the incredible technology that gave them a glimmer of hope against the overwhelming odds they faced. Back on Earth, the people looked to the skies, their hearts filled with a mixture of dread and defiance. They knew the battle ahead would be the most difficult they had ever faced, but they refused to surrender to the alien invaders. Humanity would fight to the bitter end, drawing strength from their unity and determination to protect their home. The Zorgan invasion fleet loomed over Earth, casting an ominous shadow across the planet's surface. The stage was set for a clash of civilizations, a desperate struggle between the advanced technology of the Zorgans and the indomitable spirit of humanity. The fate of Earth and the future of the human race hung in the balance, as the gathering storm of war prepared to unleash its fury upon the world. Arrival of the Armada. The Zorgan invasion fleet descended upon Earth like a swarm of locusts, their massive ships blotting out the sun as they took up positions in orbit. The people of Earth watched in terror as the alien vessels cast ominous shadows across their cities, the promise of destruction hanging heavy in the air. On the bridge of the Conqueror, Admiral Zoltar surveyed the blue-green world below with a sense of smug satisfaction. The primitive species that had dared to defy the Zorgan Empire would soon feel the full weight of his wrath. He turned to his communications officer, a cruel smile playing across his reptilian features. "Open a channel to the surface," Zoltar commanded. "It's time to offer these humans a chance to surrender before we begin our assault." The communications officer nodded, and moments later, Zoltar's image was broadcast across every screen and speaker on Earth. His voice, cold and imperious, echoed through the streets and into the homes of billions. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Zoltar of the Zorgan Empire. Your world now falls under our dominion. You have two choices: surrender unconditionally and submit to Zorgan rule, or face the consequences of your defiance. Resist, and we will unleash the full might of our Armada upon your cities and people. You have 1 hour to comply." The ultimatum sent shockwaves through the nations of Earth. In hastily convened emergency meetings, world leaders debated their options. Some argued for surrender, believing that resistance was futile against the technologically superior Zorgans. Others, however, refused to capitulate, insisting that humanity must fight for its freedom, no matter the cost. In the end, Earth's leaders reached a consensus. They would not bow to Zorgan tyranny. The people of Earth would stand united against the alien threat, even in the face of overwhelming odds. A message was sent to the Zorgan fleet, a declaration of defiance that echoed the resolve of all humanity. "Admiral Zoltar, the people of Earth reject your ultimatum. We will not surrender our freedom or submit to your rule. If you seek to conquer us, you will face the combined resistance of every human on this planet. We will fight you on the beaches, in the streets, and in the skies. We will never yield." Zoltar's face contorted with rage as he received Earth's response. The insolence of these primitives knew no bounds. They would pay dearly for their defiance. "So be it," he snarled. "All ships, commence orbital bombardment. Target their cities, their infrastructure, and their military installations. Leave nothing standing. We will crush their resistance and grind their civilization to dust beneath our feet." The Zorgan fleet opened fire, raining destruction down upon Earth's surface. Searing beams of energy sliced through the atmosphere, reducing skyscrapers to rubble and turning entire city blocks into smoldering craters. The ground shook with the impact of the orbital strikes, and the skies burned with the fires of 1,000 suns. Earth's defenses, woefully outmatched, struggled to mount a response. Missile batteries and ground-based laser cannons returned fire, their attacks barely scratching the hulls of the massive Zorgan ships. Earth's small fleet of retrofitted warships bravely engaged the enemy in orbit, but they were quickly overwhelmed by the sheer firepower of the Zorgan Armada. As the bombardment continued, the people of Earth huddled in underground shelters and fortified bunkers, praying for a miracle. The streets above were choked with rubble and the acrid smoke of burning buildings. The once vibrant cities of humanity were reduced to post-apocalyptic wastelands in mere hours. Amidst the chaos and destruction, a glimmer of hope emerged. The Intrepid, Earth's experimental faster-than-light scout ship, returned from its maiden voyage, having successfully tested Dr. Ilara Voss's prototype drive. The small vessel, equipped with advanced stealth technology, managed to slip past the Zorgan blockade and land at a secret base in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Voss and her team worked feverishly to analyze the data from the Intrepid's flight, knowing that the faster-than-light drive could be the key to humanity's survival. If they could replicate the technology and retrofit Earth's remaining ships, they might stand a chance against the Zorgan invasion. As the hours turned into days, the people of Earth fought on, their spirit unbroken despite the relentless onslaught from above. In hidden bases and underground factories, engineers and scientists labored to build new weapons and defenses, drawing upon every ounce of human ingenuity and resourcefulness. In the occupied cities, resistance fighters waged a guerrilla war against the Zorgan ground troops, using the rubble-strewn streets and shattered buildings to their advantage. They struck from the shadows, sabotaging enemy equipment and gathering intelligence on Zorgan movements. The Zorgan forces, initially dismissive of human resistance, soon found themselves mired in a brutal ground campaign. The humans proved to be tenacious and unpredictable fighters, their determination and courage compensating for their technological inferiority. Each day, the Zorgans paid a heavy price in blood for every inch of ground they claimed. As the war raged on, Dr. Voss and her team made a breakthrough. They had successfully replicated the faster-than-light drive and were ready to install it in a handful of Earth's most advanced warships. The plan was daring and desperate, a last-ditch effort to turn the tide of the war and give humanity a fighting chance. Under cover of darkness, the upgraded ships slipped away from Earth, their crews composed of the bravest and most skilled pilots and soldiers humanity had to offer. Their mission was to strike at the heart of the Zorgan fleet, to sow chaos and confusion among the enemy ranks, and buy time for Earth to rally its defenses. As the sleek, stealthy vessels penetrated the Zorgan lines, they unleashed a barrage of advanced weapons, their attacks precise and devastating. The Zorgan ships, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of human craft with capabilities far beyond anything they had encountered before, reeled from the blows. Admiral Zoltar, his confidence shaken by the unexpected human counterattack, ordered his fleet to regroup and consolidate their positions. The Zorgans had underestimated the tenacity and ingenuity of their foes, and now they found themselves facing a resistance that refused to be cowed. On the surface of Earth, the people cheered as news of the daring raid spread. The victories, small but significant, rekindled the flames of hope in their hearts. They had shown the Zorgans that humanity would not go quietly into the night, that they would fight to the last breath for their freedom and their world. The war was far from over, and the odds were still stacked against Earth. But in that moment, as the upgraded human ships danced among the stars, and the people of Earth stood united in their defiance, the impossible seemed just a little bit closer to possible. The Zorgan invasion had brought humanity to the brink of annihilation, but it had also forged a new sense of unity and purpose among the diverse peoples of Earth. In the face of an existential threat, old divisions and petty differences fell away, replaced by a shared determination to protect their home and their way of life. As the battle raged on, both in the skies above and on the surface below, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The arrival of the Zorgan Armada had plunged Earth into its darkest hour, but the resilience and courage of its people shone like a beacon in the darkness, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human race. Chance for survival. In the aftermath of the daring raid by Earth's upgraded ships, the Zorgan invasion force found itself on the defensive for the first time. The sudden display of advanced human technology and tactical prowess had caught them off guard, forcing them to reassess their strategy and regroup. On the surface of Earth, the resistance took advantage of the temporary lull in the fighting to gather its strength and plan its next move. In secret bases hidden deep beneath the ruins of once great cities, a galactic alliance of military personnel, scientists, and civilian volunteers worked tirelessly to coordinate their efforts and share resources. Among them was Captain Jenna Somers, the intrepid commander of the Trailblazer, the ship that had first encountered the Zorgans. Having survived the initial invasion, Somers had made her way back to Earth, determined to join the fight against the alien oppressors. As she walked through the bustling command center of the Resistance headquarters, Somers couldn't help but marvel at the resilience and determination of her fellow humans. In the face of overwhelming odds, they had refused to give up, pooling their knowledge and skills to devise new strategies and weapons to combat the Zorgan threat. One of the Resistance's most promising assets was a brilliant young scientist named Dr. Liam Raven. Raven had been working closely with Dr. Ilara Voss's team, studying the recovered alien technology and searching for ways to adapt it to human use. Somers approached Raven, who was hunched over a workbench, surrounded by a tangle of wires and glowing components. "Dr. Raven, I hear you've made some progress with the alien tech." Raven looked up, his eyes shining with excitement. "Captain Somers, you won't believe what we've discovered. The Zorgan ships are powered by an advanced form of antimatter reactor, far beyond anything we've ever seen. But the key is in the containment fields they use to control the reactions." He held up a small glowing device, no larger than a deck of cards. "This is a prototype of a portable containment field generator. If we can replicate this technology and scale it up, we could create our own antimatter reactors to power our ships and weapons. It would give us a fighting chance against the Zorgans." Somers felt a surge of hope at Raven's words. "That's incredible, Doctor. How soon can you have a working prototype ready for installation in our ships?" Raven hesitated, his excitement tempered by caution. "We're close, Captain, but we need more time to test and refine the design. And there's another problem. We don't have access to the exotic materials needed to construct the containment fields on a large scale." Somers nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. "What if we could capture a Zorgan supply ship? One of their transports must be carrying the materials you need." Raven's eyes widened. "That could work, but it would be incredibly dangerous. The Zorgans guard their supply lines heavily." "Leave that to me," Somers said, a determined glint in her eye. "You focus on getting that prototype ready. I'll assemble a team to infiltrate a Zorgan supply ship and get you the materials you need." As Somers set about gathering a team of the Resistance's most skilled fighters and pilots, the Zorgan occupation force continued to tighten its grip on Earth. The alien invaders had established heavily fortified bases in key locations around the planet, using them as staging grounds for their patrols and raids on human settlements. The Resistance, however, refused to be cowed. Under the leadership of experienced military commanders like Somers, they launched a series of daring guerrilla attacks on Zorgan outposts and supply lines, striking fast and hard before melting back into the shadows. These hit-and-run tactics proved to be effective, disrupting Zorgan operations and buying time for the Resistance to gather strength and plan for a larger counteroffensive. The human fighters, armed with a mix of salvaged alien technology and improvised weapons, began to turn the tide of the ground war, slowly but surely pushing the Zorgans back from their hard-won gains. In orbit, the upgraded human ships continued to harass the Zorgan fleet, using their superior speed and maneuverability to outflank the larger, more cumbersome alien vessels. The Zorgan commanders, unused to facing an enemy that could match their technology and tactics, found themselves struggling to adapt to the changing battlefield. As the Resistance's victories mounted, word began to spread among the occupied populations of Earth. Tales of human courage and ingenuity in the face of alien oppression inspired hope and sparked renewed determination to fight back against the invaders. In secret meetings and whispered conversations, people began to organize, forming underground networks to gather intelligence, smuggle supplies, and coordinate resistance efforts. The once divided nations of Earth found themselves united in a common cause, their differences set aside in the face of a greater threat. While the resistance fought on, Sommers and her team prepared for their most daring mission yet, the capture of a Zorgan supply ship. Using intelligence gathered by resistance spies, they identified a vulnerable transport scheduled to pass through a remote sector of space, carrying a cargo of the exotic materials needed for Dr. Raven's containment field generators. The team, consisting of Sommers, a handful of elite resistance fighters, and a small group of pilots flying the Resistance's most advanced ships, set out to intercept the Zorgan transport. The plan was risky, but if successful, it could provide the Resistance with the resources they needed to turn the tide of the war. As they approached the coordinates where the Zorgan ship was expected to emerge from hyperspace, Sommers felt a mix of anticipation and fear. She knew that the success of their mission could mean the difference between victory and defeat, between freedom and eternal servitude under Zorgan rule. The team lay in wait, their ships hidden among the debris of a long-dead asteroid field. They watched as the Zorgan transport dropped out of hyperspace, its massive hull gleaming in the starlight. Sommers gave the signal, and the resistance ships sprang into action, their weapons blazing as they swarmed around the surprise Zorgan vessel. The battle was fierce, but the resistance fighters were determined and well-trained. They managed to disable the transport's engines and breach its hull, boarding the ship and engaging the Zorgan crew in close-quarters combat. Sommers led the charge, her weapons firing as she advanced through the alien ship's corridors. The Zorgans fought back with all the ferocity and skill of a warrior race, but the human fighters were fueled by a desperate need to save their world and their people. In the end, the Resistance emerged victorious, securing the Zorgan transport and its precious cargo. As they made their way back to Earth, the team couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and pride. They had struck a blow against the Zorgan Empire, and in doing so, had given humanity a chance for survival. But even as they celebrated their victory, they knew that the war was far from over. The Zorgans were sure to retaliate, and the Resistance would need every ounce of courage and determination to see the fight through to the end. Back on Earth, Dr. Raven and his team worked feverishly to integrate the captured Zorgan materials into their containment field generators. The prototypes, once perfected, could be replicated and installed in the Resistance's ships and weapons, giving them a much-needed edge against the alien invaders. As the Resistance prepared for the final stage of the war, they knew that the coming battles would be the most difficult they had ever faced. But they also knew that they were fighting for something greater than themselves, the survival and freedom of the human race. With each passing day, the people of Earth grew stronger, united by a common purpose and a shared determination to reclaim their world from the clutches of the Zorgan Empire. The chance for survival was slim, but it was a chance they were willing to fight for, no matter the cost. Turning the tide. The successful capture of the Zorgan supply ship and the retrieval of the exotic materials marked a turning point in the war for Earth. Dr. Liam Raven and his team worked tirelessly to integrate the advanced technology into the Resistance's ships and weapons, giving them a much-needed boost in firepower and defensive capabilities. As the upgraded ships and equipment were distributed among the Resistance forces, a new sense of hope and determination swept through the ranks. The once ragtag group of fighters now stood as a formidable force, ready to take the fight to the Zorgan invaders and reclaim their world. Captain Jenna Sommers, having proven her leadership and tactical prowess in the daring supply ship raid, was appointed to lead a newly formed strike team. Their mission was to target key Zorgan installations and command centers, disrupting the enemy's ability to coordinate their forces and maintain their grip on Earth. The strike team's first target was a heavily fortified Zorgan base located in the heart of what was once New York City. The base served as a major hub for the alien occupation, housing a significant portion of their ground troops and serving as a command center for their operations in the region. Sommers and her team, equipped with advanced stealth technology and powerful new weapons, infiltrated the city under cover of darkness. They moved silently through the ruined streets, avoiding Zorgan patrols and picking their way through the rubble of once towering skyscrapers. As they approached the base, they could see the shimmering energy field that surrounded it, a testament to the Zorgon's advanced defensive technologies. But thanks to Dr. Raven's work, the resistance fighters now had a way to penetrate the barrier. Using a modified version of the Zorgon containment field generator, Sommers and her team created a localized disruption in the base's energy shield, allowing them to slip inside undetected. Once within the perimeter, they split into smaller groups, each with a specific target in mind. One group, led by Lieutenant Marcus Reeves, a seasoned demolitions expert, made their way to the base's power core. Their objective was to plant a series of high-yield explosives designed to overload the core and cause a catastrophic chain reaction that would destroy the entire facility. Another group, under the command of Sergeant Aria Vega, a skilled hacker and infiltration specialist, headed for the base's command center. Their goal was to access the Zorgon's communication network and sabotage their ability to coordinate their forces across the planet. Sommers herself led a third group, tasked with engaging the base's garrison of Zorgon troops and drawing their attention away from the other two teams. Armed with pulse rifles and plasma grenades, they struck hard and fast, catching the aliens off guard and sowing chaos throughout the facility. The battle was intense, with the resistance fighters facing off against the technologically superior Zorgon forces in close-quarters combat. But the element of surprise and the resistance's new weapons proved to be a potent combination, allowing them to gain the upper hand and push the Zorgons back. As Reeves' team successfully planted their explosives and Vega's group hacked into the Zorgon's communication network, Sommers and her fighters held the line, preventing the aliens from regrouping and mounting a counterattack. With their objectives achieved, the resistance teams quickly withdrew from the base, fighting their way through pockets of Zorgon resistance and back out into the ruined city. As they cleared the energy shield, Reeves triggered the explosives, setting off a massive chain reaction that engulfed the base in a blinding flash of light and a thunderous roar. The destruction of the New York base dealt a significant blow to the Zorgon occupation, depriving them of a key stronghold and disrupting their ability to coordinate their forces in the region. News of the victory spread quickly among the resistance, bolstering morale and inspiring others to take up arms against the invaders. Similar strikes were carried out against Zorgon installations around the world, with resistance teams employing the same tactics and technologies to great effect. The aliens, once confident in their ability to crush any opposition, now found themselves on the defensive, struggling to maintain their hold on the planet in the face of an increasingly sophisticated and determined human resistance. In orbit, the upgraded human ships continued to harass the Zorgon fleet, using their enhanced speed and firepower to outmaneuver and outgun the larger alien vessels. The once invincible Zorgon armada now found itself beset on all sides, its commanders scrambling to adapt to the rapidly changing situation. On the ground, resistance cells in occupied cities and towns began to rise up, emboldened by the successes of Sommers and her strike team. They sabotaged Zorgon supply lines, ambushed enemy patrols, and provided vital intelligence to the resistance leadership, all while working to protect and support the civilian population. As the tide of the war began to turn in humanity's favor, the Zorgon High Command grew increasingly desperate. They knew that they could not afford to lose Earth, not only for the strategic value of the planet itself, but also for the blow it would deal to their reputation as an undefeatable force. In a last-ditch effort to crush the human resistance, the Zorgons began to mass their forces for a final, all-out assault on the planet. They pulled ships and troops from other conquered worlds, assembling a vast armada that dwarfed anything the humans had faced before. The resistance leadership, aware of the impending attack thanks to their intelligence network, knew that they had to act quickly. They gathered their forces, both on the ground and in orbit, and prepared for what they knew would be the defining battle of the war. Captain Sommers and her strike team were given a critical mission to infiltrate the Zorgon flagship and disable its command and control systems, throwing the alien fleet into disarray and giving the human forces a chance to strike a decisive blow. As the Zorgon armada approached Earth, the Resistance launched its counterattack. Human ships, powered by the captured alien technology, engaged the enemy fleet in a fierce battle above the planet. While on the surface, Resistance fighters clashed with Zorgan ground forces in a desperate struggle for control of key locations. Amidst the chaos of the battle, Sommers and her team managed to board the Zorgan flagship, fighting their way through hordes of alien warriors as they made their way to the ship's command center. In a final, desperate confrontation, they faced off against the Zorgan High Commander himself, a towering figure of immense strength and cunning. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. But in the end, through a combination of skill, determination, and sheer force of will, Sommers and her team emerged victorious. They disabled the flagship's command systems, sending the Zorgan fleet into disarray and giving the human forces the opening they needed. With the Zorgan armada in chaos, the Resistance pressed their advantage, striking hard and fast against the disorganized alien forces. In a series of swift, decisive actions, they managed to turn the tide of the battle, forcing the Zorgans into a hasty retreat from Earth's orbit. On the ground, Resistance fighters rallied around the news of the victory in space, redoubling their efforts to drive the remaining Zorgan troops from the planet. In cities and towns across the globe, the alien invaders found themselves besieged on all sides, cut off from reinforcements and supplies. As the last pockets of Zorgan resistance were mopped up and the final alien strongholds fell, a sense of relief and elation swept through the human population. For the first time in years, the people of Earth could look to the stars without fear, knowing that they had faced the greatest threat in their history and emerged victorious. But even as they celebrated their hard-won freedom, the leaders of the Resistance knew that the war was not truly over. The Zorgan Empire, though beaten back from Earth, still posed a threat to humanity and countless other species across the galaxy. The people of Earth, united as never before, now faced the daunting task of rebuilding their shattered world and preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. They had proven their strength and resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity, but they knew that the struggle for survival and freedom was far from over. As Captain Sommers and her fellow Resistance fighters looked to the stars, they knew that they had taken the first steps on a long and difficult journey. The Zorgan Empire may have been defeated, but the war for the future of humanity and the galaxy itself had only just begun. The price of freedom. In the aftermath of the decisive battle for Earth, the remnants of the Zorgan invasion force retreated to the farthest reaches of the solar system, licking their wounds and regrouping for a potential counterattack. The human resistance, exhausted but victorious, set about the monumental task of rebuilding their shattered world and preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. Captain Jenna Sommers, hailed as a hero for her role in the liberation of Earth, found herself at the center of the reconstruction efforts. Working closely with the Resistance leadership and the newly formed United Earth government, she helped to coordinate the distribution of resources and the establishment of defenses against any future Zorgan incursions. But even as the people of Earth worked tirelessly to rebuild, they knew that the threat posed by the Zorgan Empire was far from over. The aliens had been beaten back, but not defeated, and it was only a matter of time before they regrouped and launched a new offensive against humanity. To counter this threat, the United Earth government launched an ambitious program to expand and strengthen the planet's defenses. Using the advanced technology captured from the Zorgans, they began to construct a network of orbital defense platforms and early warning systems designed to detect and intercept any incoming enemy ships. At the same time, they poured resources into the development of new ships and weapons, building upon the successful designs that had proven so effective during the war. The once primitive human fleet was transformed into a formidable force, capable of holding its own against the most advanced Zorgan warships. As the months turned into years, the people of Earth settled into a new normal, one marked by constant vigilance and preparation for the next phase of the conflict. The United Earth government, with the support of the population, instituted a system of mandatory military service, ensuring that every able-bodied citizen was trained and ready to defend their world at a moment's notice. But even as they prepared for war, the humans also began to look beyond their own borders, to the countless other species and civilizations that had fallen under Zorgan rule. They knew that they could not truly be safe until the Zorgan Empire was defeated once and for all, and that this would require building alliances with other oppressed peoples across the galaxy. To this end, the United Earth government began to send envoys to other worlds, seeking to establish diplomatic ties and forge bonds of mutual support and cooperation. Many of these worlds, having heard of humanity's successful resistance against the Zorgans, were eager to join forces and take the fight to the common enemy. As the alliance grew, so too did the scope and scale of the conflict. What had begun as a desperate struggle for survival on a single planet had now become a galactic war, with the fate of countless species hanging in the balance. For Captain Somers and her fellow veterans of the Earth campaign, this new phase of the war brought both challenges and opportunities. They found themselves leading mixed teams of humans and aliens, working to liberate occupied worlds and strike at key Zorgan strongholds across the galaxy. The fighting was brutal and costly, with the Zorgans throwing every resource they had into the defense of their empire. But the Allied forces, united by a common cause and driven by a fierce determination to see the war through to the end, slowly but surely began to turn the tide. In a series of daring raids and surprise attacks, they managed to seize control of key Zorgan supply lines and communication hubs, disrupting the enemy's ability to coordinate their forces and mount effective counterattacks. They also worked to undermine the Zorgans' grip on their subject populations, fomenting unrest and rebellion on occupied worlds, and weakening the foundations of the Empire from within. As the war raged on, the cost in lives and resources continued to mount. The people of Earth, once again forced to endure the hardships of a prolonged conflict, found themselves tested to the limits of their endurance. But they refused to give in, knowing that the price of freedom was one that had to be paid, no matter how high. In the end, after years of brutal fighting and countless sacrifices, the Allied forces finally managed to breach the defenses of the Zorgan homeworld itself. In a final, desperate battle, they faced off against the most elite of the Zorgan warriors, fighting street by street and building by building in a struggle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. It was here, in the heart of the enemy's power, that Captain Somers and her team made their final stand. In a daring raid on the Zorgan High Command itself, they managed to capture the leaders of the Empire, forcing them to accept the terms of an unconditional surrender. As news of the victory spread across the galaxy, the people of Earth and their allies erupted in celebration. The long nightmare of Zorgan oppression was finally over, and a new era of freedom and self-determination had begun. But even as they celebrated, the leaders of the Alliance knew that the work of building a lasting peace was only just beginning. The Zorgan Empire had left a legacy of suffering and destruction that would take generations to fully heal, and there were countless other threats and challenges that still loomed on the horizon. For Captain Somers and her fellow veterans, the end of the war brought a sense of both relief and uncertainty. They had fought for so long and sacrificed so much that the prospect of a life without conflicts seemed almost unimaginable. But they also knew that they had a responsibility to help shape the future, to build a galaxy in which the horrors they had endured would never be repeated. As they looked to the stars, they saw not just the scars of the past, but also the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The people of Earth, once a small and isolated species on the fringes of the cosmos, had now taken their place among the great powers of the galaxy. They had proven that they were not just survivors, but leaders, with the strength and vision to forge a new and better future for all. The price of freedom had been high, but it was a price that they had been willing to pay. And as they set out to rebuild and explore the wonders of the universe that now lay open before them, they did so with the knowledge that they had earned their place among the stars, and that nothing would ever be the same again. In the end, the story of the war between humanity and the Zorgan Empire would be remembered as one of the great epics of galactic history. It was a tale of courage and sacrifice, of the unbreakable spirit of a species that had refused to submit to tyranny, no matter the odds. And it was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope, as long as there were those who were willing to fight for it. As Captain Somers and her fellow veterans looked back on all that they had achieved, they knew that their struggle had not been in vain. They had not just saved their own world, but countless others, and had helped to usher in a new era of freedom and possibility for the entire galaxy. And so, as they set out to explore the limitless expanse of the cosmos, they did so with a sense of pride and purpose, knowing that they had been a part of something truly great, and that their legacy would endure long after they were gone. The price of freedom had been paid, and the future, at long last, was theirs to shape.